Well, I have certainly disappeared, huh? Life does that sometimes. Anyhow, we're getting an update to my favorite game mode in TF2, and I can't help but feel a jumbled assortment of emotions, including but not limited to excitement, dread, hype, and fear. This is Valve we're talking about, after all, the company that was perfectly content with leaving the game to rot with bots. Not to mention that they've long lost the interest of keeping the game's integrity. So having these guys be the ones behind an update nobody really expected, nor that the game really needs right now, does not inspire confidence. Regardless, Valve said we're getting stuff. Stuff made by us, and by us I mean the people over in the workshop. Now I know the time for casting votes is over. Whatever's on the workshop right now is just to show off more custom maps and missions, as well as stuff to be put on the Scream Fortress update. But I do have some concerns I'd like to share. And it all starts in the workshop. I assume you already know what the workshop is. This is how cosmetics get selected to be put into the game. You get presented with an item, say a cosmetic, a taunt, an unusual effect, or even maps, and you can give it either positive or negative feedback based on how you evaluate said item. It's the workshopper's job to convince you to say yes based on the images they present to you showcasing the item in question. However, there is something else that's been poured into a workshop in the weeks before August 27th, that being MvM missions. We've had these things posted in the workshop consistently during the months leading up to the deadline, but I found myself skipping on these on the queue because a single flat screen telling me credits and a robot count is not enough for me to make an informed decision. Nor do static screenshots of cherry-picked highlights of individual waves. None of this ever guarantees that all of the robots won't drop at the same time, for example. It's just a spreadsheet. Of course, I do trust the mission makers to know their shit and to not mess around. But the massive wave of missions being put into the workshop did prompt me to ask around how this all worked. I'll explain it in the most structured way I can for the sake of clarity. Do bear with me here because I need us all to be on the same page. So, imagine map creator Tom here makes a map for Man vs Machine. It's called the whole shebang. Robot paths, bomb spawns, a hatch, some upgrade stations, you name it, all of the needed pieces are present. Tom, however, for this example, is not a mission creator, meaning that this map is just that, a map with no real playability. So now Tom has three options. One is to learn how to make a mission, which means learning how to code how many waves there are, as well as to determine the starting credits and the total credits given out on each individual wave, what robots appear in said waves, in what order do they drop, and how much cash they drop, etc. Number 2 is to contact an already existing mission maker, let's say Bob here, to make one or more missions to be played in Tom's map. Number 3 is to sit and wait for a random mission maker to say, screw it, I'm gonna make something for this map, and therefore contacting Tom first. Let's run with option 2 here. Tom and Bob team up to bring this map to life. Bob needs the map files, Tom needs Bob's missions to be able to properly playtest the map. Once both parties have deemed the results as acceptable, they can upload both the map and the mission to the workshop, where users can vote on whether they want this in the game or not. Neat! Except there's a couple of bumps along the way, you see. For example, how many of you actually vote on maps? How many of you actually played on these maps before leaving a thumbs up instead of just judging it for its looks alone? It's not like with cosmetics, as maps don't appear on the daily voting queue, and the yes and no / not interested buttons are not there. It's just a subscribe button, which is used to add the map to your game, which is great for playtesting most PvP maps. But this is MvM we're talking about. A map alone with no missions will only take you so far. The thumbs up and down buttons affect the map's overall rating, but these ratings can be easily botted, and have been easily botted. That combined with the fact that the map voting is not pushed as hard as everything else, the ratings are not reliable. Favoriting the map and giving it awards also helps it get visibility, but that's about it as to what you could do to say I want this, or most importantly, no, don't put this in the game. As for actual playtesting, MvM maps for some reason can only be packaged and uploaded with one mission, and trust me, unless it's a hell wave, most players looking for new stuff would rather stay away from one-trick ponies. And that's even if the map is packaged with a mission. So, mission makers need to upload any additional missions for the map into the workshop as a separate submission, as you have probably already seen. But unlike the maps, these did appear on the daily voting queue, meaning a lot more people were presented with the more streamlined way to vote. But I mean, be honest with me. Can you, an average player, tell me whether this mission would be enjoyable to play, just from the information on screen? How about this one? Or this one? For players who have only played vanilla MvM, a lot of these icons will say absolutely nothing to them. And so will the name of the map the mission's attached to. For all I know, to the average player, these could have been made in less than a day in Canva. The best way to test these missions is either through sites that host them, like potato.tf, so you can play with randoms, or to just ask the mission maker to give you the files so you can play on your own, probably with 5 other friends that you definitely have. But if the site in question does not host a mission and the mission maker isn't as easy to contact, you are shit out of luck. And look, I know these are not being pushed out with the intention of users voting on them, rather for them to be added to a collection with the map included so that Valve can eye through all of them when they take a look, if they haven't already. Any playtesting you may do now is basically for nothing, as the time to express feedback is over. Valve's already looking at the maps they deem as interesting, if they haven't picked already, so it's kinda up to luck if we get good stuff or not. Fortunately, the amount of garbage compared to gems in the MvM scene is still relatively small. Most of the missions I have already played on potato.tf servers have been enjoyable, and Valve would have to be actively stupid to only pick maps and missions that the main player base wouldn't be able to enjoy. I mean, let's be real. The usual custom MvM mission is harder than the usual vanilla mission. A lot of advanced missions on potato.tf could easily be marked as expert by Valve standards. Also, when we're talking about standards, we need to agree that a lot of these missions have been made to be played in community servers. With that I mean, a lot of the content of these missions are not what is usually allowed in official Valve standards, or at least what should be Valve standards. Weezy put it in words better than I could.
Summer 2024 has unfortunately toyed with my optimism a bit. Valve are starting to value novelty, experimentation, a fresh experience, regardless as to whether or not that fresh experience is actually palatable. Now I've become a bit more cautious, as there are a bunch of good MvM maps that have both thematic and gameplay elements that are very ill-suited towards a base game tour. Some maps are centered around medieval mode weapon restrictions, some maps have players locked onto only one class, Casino City has intra-wave gambling mechanics, Scallops has jump power-ups scattered across the map, Charon seems to have good reviews on the gameplay front, but fuck me if this doesn't look like an Xbox 360 Star Wars game, Trainyard has too many trains. Even a lot of the more normal maps have robot concepts that inch way too far into Crazy Town. Now, I would have written these ones off as laughable inclusions for an official Valve tour a year ago, but I'm not so sure I should be laughing anymore. I don't even mean to disparage the people who made these maps. They all work completely fine in the community context, which is the exact context that they were made under to begin with. But for official, in-game accessible MvM missions, these ones should stay on the cutting room floor. What I personally advocate for is controlled novelty. New robots using new weapons inside of new maps on new missions, but keep everything in line with the traditional MvM formula we've come to expect. No need to reinvent the wheel here. Aim in that direction, and we shouldn't see any problems with mission cohesion based on that premise alone. And that'll set us up for the best foundation possible.
So yeah, I can look the other way when it comes to community servers, but if they were to be put into the vanilla game, they must follow the rules of TF2's pre-established style. While most of the missions I have played adhere to these rules, I just know that Valve will do little to no playtesting on anything they add, on top of not having really cared about the game's visual integrity for a long time. So, until we can make them care, the job falls to us, the users, to call out the garbage, especially when Valve seems to have forgotten TF2 is not Fortnite. Hell, I already know that we are going to be the playtesters for the first few weeks after the update drops. That's even if we can play, considering the matchmaker will absolutely shit itself like the past major update. I'm just glad that most of the MvM sub-community that actually plays the game mode because they like it seem to know what makes the game mode fun and engaging, therefore the quality so far has been consistently good. Okay, so I feel the need to put a warning here. This section is going to be a bit opinionated. None of the following rage is directed at the authors of the work I'm about to present, but at the work itself and what it represents. Do not harass the people behind these items, period. I do not want any petty drama on my comment section, please. We're all adults here. When I say I don't trust Valve, I say it from the perspective of knowing that they will not go through enough effort to ensure the quality stuff makes it in. They only look at what is either trending on the workshop or what stands out as unique or novel. Both of these metrics are not a good way to judge whether something is actually fit for the game. Especially if a lot of the items that we have been getting for years now have been made in collaboration with or directly by one centralized group that does not care about what gets put into the game. Because, well, it's the workshop. If things get put into the game, there's money to be made. And we all know how money means drama when it comes to this game. So, I've got one question for y'all. Do you remember... Thought by many the first real slop update. It was just a patch on loot boxes, but robot themed. Of course, the update was very poorly received due to most of it just being robotified worse versions of already existing hats. And as much bias as I have towards MvM's signature clunky style, it does not translate well into cosmetics. These look from okay-ish, tending to just ugly. Nobody wants to wear a literal scrap on their head. Besides, almost none of these combo with anything. Even I, the first one to defend these hunks of questionably fashionable metal in any given scenario, admit that you're better off using the hat it's based on or not using it at all. It was supremely underwhelming, even as a parody update. So, given this consensus, why is it whenever I open the workshop I see cheap unusuals, inventory clog, and redundancy at best? I thought we had learned. A lot of these suffered the same issue as the badge we got a decade ago. Just a thing from the robot play model copy-pasted into Merc's body. Items we already have, or straight up just ugly or art style breaking cosmetics. And before you say, well, they didn't ask for cosmetics this time around, so your worries were nothing. I mean, fair point. But I also fear this is not going to be limited to just cosmetics, but assets too. I'm fine with blimps and cosmetics on robots. Not only have those been in custom missions for a long time now, but they're simple and grounded enough in TF2's existing style. But some of these really stretch the limits of what could be considered part of the robot team. Not to mention some of these maps, again, fine for community servers, not for the main game. So, if we combine these workshoppers' lack of care for the game for the sake of a paycheck, the lack of genuine user feedback, and Valve doing a below minimum effort to determine something is suitable for the game or not, chances are this update is going to be a huge gamble at best. Again, Valve only looks at what's novel or trending, or at least that's what it feels like. So whatever's at the top of the workshop page when they check will have a high chance of getting in. And the worst part is that the people who set the trends are usually not those who play the game. If they're even human at all. Because remember, the latest community effort to make a themed update included review botting to inflate a map's popularity or to tank it. Yup, it is that scummy. Anyways, that concludes my worries with the workshop. I'm probably overthinking it though. Let's switch to another subject. Well, to top this rant off, can I just say how horrible queuing up for bootcamp is? I know almost nobody plays the free version of the game mode because vanilla is practically comprised of gambling addicts that stick to man up mode, and those who just abuse the strategy of leaving in the last minute of the last wave to not consume the only ticket they have for the sake of playing with better players, once again in man up. Then there's players like me who appreciate playing over waiting, so we stay on community servers. This has left bootcamp in a sorry state where 70% of the players are noobs, which wouldn't be so bad if the only way to play the damn game mode is to queue for every map and mission due to how small the player base is on the free version of a pretty much premium game mode. While a simple progress system where you need to clear the easier missions to play the harder ones sounds good on paper, it would restrict player choice and possibly alienate players. Making harder missions display a warning before being played would be a better approach to at least let potential newbies hesitate before diving into an expert level mission without prior experience with the game mode. But none of this really matters if getting into a game in the first place warrants a 15 to 30 minute waiting time. Case in point, why can't we just enable ad hoc connections? Or in layman's terms, manually joining into a bootcamp server. I mean, it would eliminate the need to wait entirely, as well as the ability to join in an empty server to manually switch the map or mission by yourself, in case every other server running what you're looking for is full. Not to mention, the MvM matchmaker does not have the ability to make your friends join while you're still in the game, even with slots missing. You have to re-queue for that, forfeiting any progress you may have made on the lobby you were already playing. I just hope we get actual game improvements along with the new maps, as well as possibly a fix for some of the broken upgrades I mentioned on my previous video. I was going to go on a tangent about skins and Australiums again, but I don't think I need to. This video is gonna be long enough as is. We'll see how this update goes, and well, hopefully we get good stuff. Fingers crossed though. Regardless of what happens, you can expect a video of me covering the good, the bad, and the uglies of it. Now, go on the workshop and let Valve know what you really want. And if you want to play these missions in advance, Potato.tf is linked in the description. We got all kinds of experimental things. I highly recommend you look into it. That's all for now. May Silicon Slaughter be merciful to us all. And it's done. It's fucking done.